how do you balance between being a professional at work and having relationships with your coworkers? Why? Because it's only natural. When people come together, we are bound to form friendship because we have something in common. You work together, you are working towards a common goal. There's things that is bringing you together. You probably even share with the mission and the vision of the organization. So it's only natural for you to become friendly. But where do you draw the line between being a professional and being a friend to that coworker? So in today's video, I want to share with you 5 boundaries you need to have with your coworkers. And the reason why I felt it's important for me to share these tips is because I've seen friendship make or break other people's career. A good example is you are friendly with this person at work, but you don't know that this is the same person who's going behind you. You are sharing your most intimate details about your life, and little do you know that it's going all the way to the boss, the colleagues, and people are looking at you different. So boundaries are very important, not only in our personal life, but also our professional life. And I would say even they are even more critical when it comes to our career, when it comes to our professional life. And the question also begs, how much do you share with your colleagues? How much do you share with your co-workers? For example, if you're making an investment, if you got this bonus and you're looking to invest it, do you go into details? Do you say, this is where I'm putting the money, this is the return it's giving me, this is the product that I'm buying? You know, little do you know that sometimes the same person you're sharing with this information, they're becoming jealous, and guess what? They're working towards you. And even also some things are quite personal. For example, you are starting a family. Do you go sharing the intimate details of how many number of children you're looking to have, even what you're going to call them, and whether madam wants 3 children and you want 5, all those kind of things, which before you know it, you find that they are being discussed in the kitchen as gossip. So I would highly encourage you to always maintain boundaries, you know, when it comes to your co-workers. And remember, don't forget, the first reason that brought you together is because of work. Never forget that. So having said that, what are some of the things that you need to consider when it comes to setting boundaries? Number 1, don't overshare things you wouldn't want other colleagues to know. Yes, I know you have a best friend at work. It's important to even have colleagues you talk to, you confide in, you even share, because no man or woman can be an island. But then again, the question is, you have to be very careful. Would you be comfortable the information you are sharing with your colleague getting out to everyone? For example, for those of us who are married, sometimes you might be having issues in your, marital life. Your husband or wife, you have issues with them. Guess what? Does the office really need to know that? I don't think so. Because any responsible manager or leader or HR, all you need to go and tell them is that there are some things you need to sort out at home. Can they give you time off? But you don't need to go into the nitty-gritties of what is happening. Because chances are, if that information gets out, people start to look at you differently. It's just normal. And if they are looking at you from you being a very competent professional, right now they'll start seeing you as someone maybe who's not able to have their life together. And when decisions are being made, sometimes you may lose opportunities because of that. I know of a manager who he was going through a difficult time, and he would borrow money from his juniors. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, all of us sometimes we go through financial difficulties. But word got out that this is what he was doing, and he was penalized. This gentleman, he no longer saw opportunities. People no longer saw him as this capable manager, all because he was, in 1 or 2 occasions, he borrowed money, and he even returned the money. So you have to be very careful. Don't overshare things you don't want your colleagues to know. The second advice is be neutral, especially if you're in a leadership position. And a good example is, if you are here, you are a leader, but you only spend time with one member of staff or a certain department, people you start making deductions, people you start concluding, coming up with things. You know, human beings, we are very creative. So as a leader, you should be like a parent. And the work of a parent is It doesn't matter how much you see potential in one child versus another. You always pay attention to all of them. So if I were in your shoes and I'm a leader, it's for me to be neutral. And sometimes also, apart from spending time with making sure you spend time across the board with all the staff members, also don't take sides whenever there are fights. Because every office has its own funny maneno or small things happening. So if that's the case, you should be above board. So let the people fight their own small battles, their own issues, and you at the top. Where you should intervene is obviously if it's affecting work. But if it's personality clashes, if these people don't seem to agree at a personal level, then don't get involved. They'll sort it out themselves. Again, it's like children. If you're a parent and you have two children who are fighting, guess what happens? They normally fight and then they make up. And then you are left there. So if you had taken side, you might aggravate the situation. You might make things much worse. Be neutral. I would also advise you to make sure that your professional life and personal life is not overlapping. What do I mean? It's always important. Yes, have friends at work, but those should not only be your friends. So you cannot be on Friday, you leave the office, you go have drinks with these same people, and Saturday you stay in the same estate with your colleague, and so Saturday you go shopping together, and Sunday you are going to church with the same colleagues. No. Have a personal life outside the office. It's not to say you cannot interact with your colleagues, your co-workers, but life cannot revolve around the same people you meet every day at the office. It will even become boring. And this is even more so important in terms of support system, because your colleagues, sometimes they may not see things your way. They may not even be able to give you good advice as an outsider who's not involved in the day-to-day running issues of your organization. So always have a support system outside the office. Always make sure that your free time, you're not only spending it with your colleagues at the office, the other people who you hang out with. You spend your free time with, whether it's family members, the extended family, whether it's people you knew from college or people you met elsewhere. It will always help to make sure that your free time and professional life, they are not overlapping. It's not so much together. And because we know jobs come to an end, companies sometimes fail, you could be fired or you could even move to another company. Can you imagine if the only people who are close to you are also the people you work with? Then you see all these dynamics. It can even become very ugly. So next time you have your free time and you're tempted to call a colleague, ask yourself, who else can I have in my life over and above my colleague? Point number 4, minimize alcohol consumption with colleagues. So again, you can go out, you can go have fun with colleagues, with co-workers, but if you know that if you take 2 or 3 for the roads, that's the time you start singing, that's the time you start talking about company secrets, that's the time you start talking about your colleague's secret, what is happening, who is doing this to this other person. I would say minimize. Don't be the person don't take alcohol. Go there, have your one for the road, a glass of wine, and leave as early as possible before the temptation of talking too much sets in. And also the reverse is true, because you can't tell people how much to drink. The only thing that you're in charge of is how much information you share with them, such that even when they are drunk, they only be able to give the retro information and not much. So you can see where oversharing comes in, because also when people are out there, when we're more in a social setup, people tend to talk. They'll say who has moved houses, who is getting married, who is now living with this man or woman and they are not married. A lot of small things come up, and you don't want your life to be put on the table and to become a topic of discussion. So minimize alcohol consumption. Alcohol has really messed up many professionals. It has, and this is something that you can avoid. On to my last point is to avoid clique. It helps to be neutral in the organization. Why? You don't want to be lumped together with some people. Some people I know, they could just be your friends. You don't even subscribe to their thinking. You don't even subscribe to their way of life. But the fact is, if you're always seen together, what happens? People, you say also Perminus life is also that way. You either be known as those noisy people, or those people who always discuss politics, or those people over the weekend they're always drinking. Can you imagine? And maybe you might be even be going for those drinks, but you only take soft drinks. But yet, when people are discussing you, they're discussing how you behave in the workplace, they're discussing you in your professional capacity, they'll look around the people you hang around with. Don't forget this proverb: birds of the same feather flock together. So if you're always seen in one creek, then people you tend to associate your behavior, your reputation with that one creek. So what does it mean then to you as a professional? It's always interact across the board, form bonds across. So whether it's finance, you do talk to people in finance, procurement, HR, be friendly throughout. That's what it means. Don't just be friendly to the people who maybe subscribed to your style of life, if I can put it that way. So there you have it. So you can find happiness at work, you can interact with colleagues, you can share a lot. Even having close friendship at work, it can really make a whole lot of a difference. However, it's always good to set boundaries, because you never know. You can never know what other people are saying, but you can be in charge of the information that you are sharing with them, and that way you always be safe. So practice those boundaries, and you'll not be wondering who's trying to stab you behind your back.